Canned spaghetti sauce can be just as tasty as the homemade kind, unless, of course, you buy one loaded with sugar or light on the garlic it claims to have. Here's the canned sauce you should avoid on your next grocery trip, along with the ones you should definitely grab. With its 4-cheese sauce, Hunt's saves you the trouble of adding extra cheese to your recipe. It's a move that works in jarred sauces quite well, so dropping it into a canned version shouldn't be such a stretch. The ingredients list even breaks down the cheese blend into its components: Romano, Parmesan, ricotta, and mozzarella made from cow's milk, salt, cultures, and enzymes. That level of detail is quite a find in a food format that sometimes tries to find workarounds that don't work. It's a strategy that gives Hunt's solid footing in a sector where the competition is pretty thin to begin with. It isn't the taste that ranks this can one of the worst. The flavor is pretty decent, with the cheese essence rising above the rich tomato base in just the right measure. But the formula includes high fructose corn syrup, regular corn syrup, and sugar, which feels like a lot of sweeteners for a savory sauce. Isn't the cheese enough to make the flavor work? There's no notable sugary essence in the taste of the sauce, which points to the likelihood of the trio doing triple duty to draw down the acidity. It sure would be nice to try it without all the extra sugar, though. It's not as off-putting as, say, using ketchup as spaghetti sauce, but you're better off going with a pure sauce and adding your own cheese instead. If you're going to offer a traditional spaghetti sauce in canned form, shouldn't you actually adhere to tradition? It seems kind of important. But Hunt's traditional sauce takes heritage in a slightly less than favorable direction by including ingredients that it doesn't need. Does it still taste like spaghetti sauce? Yes. Does it adhere to the honest-to-goodness tradition of real Italian sauce as part of the performance? Not really, no. Instead, it takes a contemporary approach that gives a presumably authentic sauce a factory food sucker punch. The modern tweak comes in the form of high fructose corn syrup, that gooey stuff that shows up just about everywhere these days. Add sugar to spaghetti sauce if you must, but this corn-based extraction represents some of the worst developments in contemporary food science, and certainly doesn't belong here. Nobody's asking Hunt's to aim for a deluxe concoction like lemon garlic pasta sauce, but it isn't too much to expect that the ingredients get a more trustworthy mix-in to bring sweetness to the pot. Another tiny can with the potential for big success, Hunt's roasted garlic tomato sauce should be a mini winner in your kitchen pursuits.
If Hunt's came out with a new spaghetti sauce, would you give it a try?
If Hunt's made it, sure.
Why wouldn't pureed tomatoes mixed with red pepper and salt be a culinary victory for the cook in a hurry? It's the exact assemblage you'd gather if you were making your own sauce. And yet, it fails on the taste scale dramatically, falling so short it's likely the worst can in our collection by far. What could Hunt's have done so differently that puts this can on the most unwanted list? Well, the only mention of garlic is in the natural flavors section, meaning there's less than 2% of the ingredient in the entire can. All you really need to know is that if a sauce called roasted garlic includes less than 2% of actual garlic, roasted or otherwise, it's not a sauce worth investing in. Skipping the step of making your own ground beef for a heartier, meat-based spaghetti sauce may sound like a real time saver. But which is more important, your time or your enjoyment of your dinner? And if your enjoyment includes feeling good about what comes out of a can, like Hunt's meat sauce, you'd probably like to know that your purchase netted you sauce and meat, with not much else to compete for your adoration. Well, if that's your opinion, this pre-made sauce is a convenience you'd be wise to work around. We could start with sugar, an inclusion here that only sometimes makes an appearance in spaghetti sauce. But sugar is forgivable in light of the high fructose corn syrup it shares the label with, an extra sweetener that seems like overkill. By the time we reach the hydrolyzed soy, corn, and wheat proteins, it becomes clear that meat isn't the only thing chunking up the contents of the can. In fact, rereading the front of the label, you can find the fine print lists this creation as meat-flavored, instead of simply including meat. It's unsurprising that the finished sauce tastes weird too. This can gets a hearty thumbs down. Anytime vegetables enter the canned sauce equation, things are bound to get a whole lot more flavorful, right? It seems like a safe assumption, given that you would add veggies to your own homemade sauce, were you in that position. Hunt's roasted garlic and onion sauce aims for the same bullseye by dropping in 2 tasty ingredients used to make straight-up tomato sauce into a sturdier concoction for generations.
This message couldn't be clearer. The children need more sauce on their spaghetti.
It's not for lack of trying that Hunt's punts on its sturdier version of spaghetti sauce. The roasted garlic garlic, and onion actually bring the flavor up from a simmer to a boil. But what's with the high fructose corn syrup making an unnecessary appearance here? If you want that level of sweetener in your pasta, you might as well sprinkle it with gummy bears and Sour Punch straws. Tasty-wise, there's a strange chemical essence that competes with the garlic and onions and clearly doesn't belong in spaghetti sauce. If you're looking for a pure pasta topper that restricts the recipe to tomatoes, oil, veggies, and seasonings, this selection should get canned, as in fired. So now that you know what some of the worst canned spaghetti sauces are, what about some of the best? These are the brands you need to buy. True, it's not an all-grown-up spaghetti sauce with all the bells and whistles, but Hunt's tomato sauce with basil, garlic, oregano offers the sauce essentials in a simple can that can get you where you want to go easily. Notice the name is tomato sauce rather than spaghetti sauce. This is because this concentrated creation is sauce stripped down to its basic components. This minimalist mix gets you from zero to dinner in just a step or two more than a finished sauce in a can would. It also means the can is half the size of the other sauces. But if the quality and flavor presented here surpasses expectations, then you may not mind the extra work required to flesh it out. Could a can so tiny possibly contain the makings of a full-fledged spaghetti sauce? You bet your bottom grocery dollar. Tomatoes and water are the main ingredients, with enough space left over for flavorings like salt, red pepper, dried basil, and garlic powder. Use a few cans to make a more expansive sauce with other ingredients, or add water and a little oil to thin it out and serve it in its simpler form. You could toss in some chopped tomatoes to give it more substance, finish it off with a shake of Parmesan on top, and enjoy one of your best ever spaghetti creations, even if your pasta of choice happens to be in the form of spaghetti squash. Keeping it simple is usually the best route to take when dousing your spaghetti in canned sauce. With Hunt's Garlic and Herb, you have one of the most straightforward flavor combinations in the Great Italian Cookbook. The sauce includes a robust blend of zesty herbs and punchy garlic to give the tomato zing a little extra oomph. There's no reason to think a brand like Hunt's couldn't come up with a high-energy spaghetti sauce you can pop the top on and pour over your best bowl. Thank goodness the sauce has the juice to make pasta even better. It's not simply the flavors of garlic, parsley, basil, and other unspecified spices. It's the bits of these add-ins lending texture to give a true homemade savoriness to the sauce. The only thickener found on the label, aside from the tomatoes, is modified potato starch. And while both sugar and sorbitol appear to lend balance to the acidic tomatoes, it's a relief to find no trace of corn syrup in the listing. Flavor-wise, this is a straightforward selection that lets you play dress-up with your pasta without compromising your culinary principles. If taste counts as much as nutrition on your table, Hunt's Garlic and Herb makes a great choice for maintaining both. The vibrant yellow label of Cento sauce Italiano isn't found among the selections of the pasta sauce aisle with the other canned spaghetti sauces. Instead, Cento sauce Italiano is hidden in the canned tomato and tomato paste section. With a trim list of wholesome ingredients, it appears to be a high-quality offering from a lesser-known brand. However, it's also one that provides an expansive catalog of Italian dining enchantments. Everything from pesto to clam sauce, the canned concoction is the only product in the line that comes close to being a canned spaghetti sauce, which warrants Cento a spot in the trial, with high hopes for a flavorful experience.
And that's why I trust my family with Cento.
The truth is that Cento is a brightly acidic, tomato-forward sauce that doesn't have to do too much to be impressive. The label reports dried onion and garlic with other spices, and sweet bell pepper, though it seems that the citric acid conducts the show, helping pull the other flavors into the spotlight. Anyone who's ever eaten anything knows that tartness isn't just a taste, it's an experience that can easily overwhelm your taste buds and drown out anything else in the mix if not balanced properly. Cento's smart sauce stays even-handed and does an admirable job of keeping all the elements in play, conjuring up a canned spaghetti add-on that brings big Italian flavor without weirdness. Buon appetito indeed!